कब आती है रुत पे जवानी, कब बनती है प्रेम कहानी। प्रेम कहानी में एक लड़का होता है, एक लड़की होती है, कभी दोनों हंसते हैं, कभी दोनों रोते हैं।
Welcome to another exciting show for Prem Connection. It's Thursday night, and like Auntie Reno always says, if you don't have a date, you always have a date with us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Want to first welcome Aaron to the show. Welcome. Good evening.
Thank you.
I also wanted to welcome one half of our dynamic duo, Auntie Kamal. Good evening, Auntie Kamal.
Good evening. Welcome everyone to the show, and we have another exciting show.
We have a super exciting show, and that's our special guest that's right here, and that's Stephanie. Stephanie Seril is a seasoned marketer in Silicon Valley, helping companies build their brand, story, and strategy. A native to the Bay, Stephanie attended college in San Francisco and has lived and dated all over the Bay Area. She's passionate about cooking, traveling, reading, and hanging with her pup, Penelope. Stephanie also hosts the podcast, The Anti-Wedding Wedding Club, which is all about wedding traditions and why you can do whatever you want. Good evening, Stephanie.
Hi, Ron. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Stephanie, I'm so excited for the show today about the pitfalls of dating. But before we start, I did want to talk to Auntie Kamal about a couple of things. So Auntie Kamal, first, I just want to remind everyone, you can check us out at premconnection.com. You can also find us on Facebook. We have videos on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe. Our email address for any inquiries is 2auntiesdoubleadvice@gmail.com. So Auntie Kamal, let's talk a little bit. I know that people have gotten to know you a little bit, but I thought maybe we could get to know you a little bit more. So I know that you've lived in a few different countries. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I was born in Kenya, and then I moved to England. And after I got married, I moved to USA. So, having lived in so many different places, I got to meet a lot of people. In Kenya, we never knew who was who, in the sense that it was such a close-knit community, whether you were Muslim, Asian, African, we just were one big family. And when we came to England, so we got to meet the British at the prim and proper, but they were a lot of fun. So we got to know that. And then there was a lot of other nationalities that had moved to England. So we got to know them. And throughout my life, coming to USA is a melting pot. So you get to meet people from all walks of life, backgrounds and everything. So in my young life, I want to say young, I've met so many different people that it's so nice, to have this variety of, experiences that and shared with people and learned from people. So it's been a fun life for me so far.
Do you think that having that you've lived in 3 different continents really has allowed you to kind of get to know people of every different walk of life, right?
Absolutely. Because, when you meet, people from all walks of life, you get to know them because you get to know them socially, you get to know them, work-wise, you get to know people in every, aspect. So I feel that, this has given me an edge, helping people meet their partners. And it's always, I think, nice to having that experience that I can bring to Prem Connection and introduce people. And I have done, people from all, ranges of young, old, that not only just for marriage or anything, but also partnerships and friendships and, work-wise.
Right. And then just like Auntie Reno, you guys have had a lot of experience even helping people that are single looking for a partner, that are divorced, separated, marrying a different culture, marrying a different religion. And especially having that background really is important, I think, for our clients to understand that you can be whatever background and we will do the search for you. So
absolutely. And with Prem Connection, having Reno and myself as a team, we can give you that personal touch. We can help guide you, advise you, sometimes unwanted, but we may do that. We're old, so we will do that.
Okay, well, that's great. And now that we know what you can do, let's talk about some of the things that have happened in the dating cycle that are the pitfalls of dating. We can welcome in again our very special Stephanie Seril. And Erin, why don't you lead us off here?
Hey, Stephanie. We're super excited to have you here today because we know that you have some experience and a lot of great stories about your experience in the dating field. So let's get started. What are some pitfalls when it comes to dating and using dating apps?
So I would say, so just to age myself, I'm 33. I have been dating since I was in high school. There were no apps at this time. There's been apps since I was in college or my very early 20s. So I would say in this day and age, probably the biggest pitfall when it comes to dating and in apps, I think you see this more on apps, but this does actually happen in person too, is that people have a lot of selection these days. If you're on an app, it's like a buffet of women or men. You're just swiping and swiping, and you see that they're 5'6", and you're like, no, I don't date guys that are short. Or you see one picture that maybe they don't look their best, and you swipe. And so I think people, or you meet somebody and you start dating, and then you're always kind of looking at what's the next thing because there's so many options. And instead of just focusing on the one person that you are dating and seeing if that could be a fit, you're always just kind of looking for the grass is greener on the other side. And as we know, it usually isn't. Not saying that you need to date everyone, but I would say that's probably our generation's biggest issue, is that they just can't decide who they want to be with.
Like you're saying, it can be pretty frustrating, right? So how do you handle the frustration?
You know what? It's hard. I'll be honest. Like I said, I've been dating for a long time and I've had a couple of serious relationships, but I've been single a lot of my adult life. So there's always the phase with the apps where you load them, you do the whole profile, you go in there, you have a good attitude. You're like, okay, I'm going to meet somebody. I'm going to be open to it. And then you get horrible emails, or people ghost you, or you go on a couple of dates and they're really, really bad. And then you don't want to do it anymore. So you delete the apps and then you don't touch them again for a few months. And then eventually you reload them. And it's this vicious cycle that just kind of keeps going. And it can feel really daunting, and it can feel really just discouraging that you're not going to meet somebody that works for you and that you have that connection with. So I would say also in my 30s now, I try to be careful about my expectations on humans and what they can kind of bring to the table. So I try to not take things as personally, but that's also easier said than done. So I would just say that I think you have to be really kind to yourself. And if you need some time and some space away from dating, you should take it. And if you need to give yourself some self-love, so is that take a bubble bath, have some wine, hang out with friends, watch a movie, like do whatever you need to do to take care of your emotional well-being and make sure that you're in the right place to actually meet people and date. If you feel really discouraged or negative about the experience, most likely it's going to be negative when you go on dates or when you talk to people.
When you're saying that now you have better or less expectations of other people, is it because you understand yourself better now? Is that what it is, do you think?
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it. I like that. Yeah, I would say that is, about 6 months ago, or maybe now it was a little bit, almost a year ago, I kind of took the pressure off of myself on having to, like, by certain ages, women, have kids, get married, do the whole thing. I removed that off of myself, first off, because I feel like it put a very unhealthy expectation on people that I was dating. And that was my choice. That's not everybody's choice. But I think that you also have to realize that humans are humans. We all have bad days. We all have bad dates. And not everybody is going to click with you. Not everybody's going to have chemistry or like you, and that's okay. That just means that that's not your person. And it's hard to remember that, though, sometimes when you're in the middle of dating and you want somebody to be your person really badly, and they're just not, and you kind of try to force it. That's what I've tried to kind of step away from as I've gotten older when it comes to dating.
So as you know, catfishing can be a problem on dating apps,
Oh, Lord,
in
yes.
general, or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So what are some red flags that someone may be catfishing you?
Yes. The last time this happened to me was actually when I was in Greece last year. I met a guy right before I left and realized while I was on the trip that he was not real. So I would say on the apps, this is definitely a thing. COVID, however, makes this way easier because a lot of people are FaceTiming or doing things like that. So if they're catfishing, they don't last very long because it's really gets obvious that they're not engaging with you on that level. But I would say the things to watch out for, if they won't send you any new pictures, and you can kind of tell when something's like a post picture or something they probably found online.
Let me stop you real quick.
Yes.
You said new pictures, not nude.
Not nude. N-E-W.
So to be clear.
Like, if I was texting a man, I could take a picture right now and I could show him that it was like me, then that if they won't do that, that's a red flag. And if they will not FaceTime, that's a red flag, or talk on the phone. That's a huge, huge red flag, and you should just run.
Yeah, because COVID has normalized doing FaceTime or Zoom calls or something like that, whereas it may have been a little awkward prior to that.
Yes. So COVID, I actually think has helped dating. I will get into that, but yeah, it was kind of weird. I never FaceTime dates before because you would just meet them in person. So yeah, it was kind of an awkward ask, but that was one way to look at it. The other ones that I had, the guy when I was in Greece, he said he was in another country for work, and then after like a few days, they move really quickly. They like talk about future plans. They get super emotional and lovey-dovey, and then they'll ask you for money to get back into the country or to pay a bill or some weird thing like that.
Yikes.
So it's a catfish, and it happens a lot. There's a lot of catfishing on these apps that are actually scams.
Wow.
It's so bad. But you can kind of tell if once you've seen one, you get the vibe and you're like, oh, and then you just block it.
But at the same time, we'll get into it a little bit later, but at least you're not jaded from all of that.
There have been moments where I have been jaded.
I was gonna say there's times where I'm sure she has been a little jaded and she's got
I know distinctly that I cried at your kitchen island over a boy not that long ago. So there definitely have been jaded moments. But I try to be positive because, you know, a relationship also isn't everything. If you're not happy with yourself and who you are and being single, you're not going to be happy in a relationship either. So you have to figure out things to have a full life even without a partner, and then hopefully a partner, if that's what you want, comes along.
So if you're looking for a more serious relationship, would you look into a matchmaking site?
Absolutely. I actually thought about it in the past. So if things don't work out with the man that I'm dating right now, I will be calling you. No, I think that there is nothing wrong with that. I actually think that it would be really interesting to have a non-interested third party kind of look at who you are and maybe help you figure out who the kind of person that you should be with is. Because I think a lot of our ideas of who we should date and who we should marry are probably incorrect.
Well, I think the other thing too is, like you're saying, the catfishing aspect. I mean, like for Prem Connection, we make sure and weed those things out. So if we can, stop that headache for you and help you in that process, that just makes it a lot easier too. But that's good. I'm glad to hear you say that. Good, Eric.
Yeah.
So can you share some interesting dating disaster stories?
I mean, we could be on the call for like an hour if I want to give you
let's keep
The
it
show's
short.
only half an hour.
We only have 11 moments.
like a decade worth of dating stories. Yeah, I think my favorite one is I showed up at a restaurant for a drink with this gentleman, and there was a woman sitting with him, and I did not know who this woman was. And so I was like, okay, am I dating both of them? Like, what's going on here? And it turned out that it was his mom.
Oh,
Whoa.
wow.
He brought mom on the date. It did not warn me ahead of time.
He was Indian? He was Indian?
He was white. It wasn't even a cultural thing. I don't know what he was thinking. The thing that is I ended up having a lovely time with her. We had a couple glasses of wine and chatted, and he didn't really talk. He was very boring. So, I mean, I liked the mom, but I didn't like the son.
Did you ask her if she has another son?
You know what I should have? I was like, do you have another one that maybe that one will work instead? Because I can then keep you because I like you. But no, he was a only child. So maybe that explains why he brought his mom.
Mama's boy.
Yes. And then let's see. Oh, last year, this was a fun one. I went on a date with a guy that was like a VC dude, so Silicon Valley tech guy, which I normally don't tend to date, but I did go on this date. And the only question he asked me in 20 minutes was, "Are you Stephanie?" And then he sat down, proceeded to talk about himself for 20 minutes. Very, very like gloaty, egotistical man. He referred to himself in the third person twice in this 20-minute time span. And then finally, so I'm just drinking a glass of wine, basically like I'm going to finish this glass of wine and then I'm getting up and leaving. And he then looked at me and said, "Okay, so Stephanie, sell yourself to me. Why should I date you?"
How rude.
You're saying that's not the way to go about it?
No.
No, that's definitely not the way to go about it. Maybe if she's like 20 and doesn't know better, but not with a 33-year-old woman.
See, that's another great thing that Prem Connection, what we do is we can help you. If you're shy or you haven't dated before and you're nervous and maybe you think you're going on an interview or you're interviewing someone and you do those things, we do have life coaching available. We can talk you through these steps because you don't want to be on another radio show being called a pitfall of dating or a horror dating story. That's the way I look at it.
I know. I will not name the man, but he was a horrible date.
Yeah.
Out of there fast enough.
Yeah. So what words of wisdom can you give to people that are looking for a partner?
So I'll kind of bring it back to dating right now because I actually am dating somebody right now. We've been dating for about 6 months. So we met during a global pandemic. I find the irony in that really funny because I have been single for 5 years. And lo and behold, I met a person when I couldn't even physically meet him. And I think that's ridiculous. I think life is laughing at me in that sense. But what I would say for kind of words of wisdom and advice is I know a lot of people, like when COVID hit, they said, well, okay, this year's a wash. I'm not going to date. I actually say you should definitely date right now. The reason for that being is that it weeds out people that only want to have physical relationship with you, because no guy is going to sit there and FaceTime with you for 3 months before meeting you if all he wants is a physical relationship. It shows that people can communicate and are open to communicating. You get to know somebody better before you physically meet them. And it just kind of slows things down a little bit. And I hate saying this because my mother told me this when I was younger, and I'm so like, why am I think my grandmother told me this too, but like the good things come to those that wait, and that you have to take things slow sometimes. And I'm a modern woman. I want to do things on my own timeline, but I will admit that kind of going a little bit slower and getting to know somebody and having a foundation in which to build a relationship that really just organically has moved forward over the last 6 months has worked. And so I was able to do that because of COVID. But if I was to, go back into the dating scene and there was no longer a pandemic, I would actually take this lesson that I learned and use that going forward, because I think that I don't know if I call him the musician online, so I don't name him, but I don't know that the musician and I would have met if it hadn't have been for COVID and dating the way we had to date.
Yeah, I mean, that's great advice to give to someone. I mean, here at Prem Connection, we really want people to find love, and we're so happy that you found love on your own, especially during this pandemic. But we really just want people to know, like, there are people out there for you, and we will scour the planet for you. And that's basically what we're looking to do. And it's really important, the pitfalls that you talk about that you've experienced, especially over the last few years. We want to weed that out. We don't want that to be a part of our our service. And so that's what we try to do. But I thought maybe you could even share a little bit more and explain, ghosting is always a topic that comes up during our radio shows. And we know that a lot of the millennials and a lot of the younger people really understand it. But maybe you can talk about, like, just a little bit more about ghosting, what it is, how it really can affect someone, and how it can affect you negatively, and how you can kind of pick up the pieces afterwards and go from there.
Yeah. So I think that ghosting, for those of you that don't know what ghosting means, and it can come in all shapes and forms of if you've physically met the person, if you've only texted, like all these different things. But it's where somebody just decides to stop talking to you out of nowhere for no reason. They don't really tell you that they don't want to continue the relationship, and they just disappear. So they're like a ghost. It's like, poof, bye. And every once in a while, I've had this happen multiple times to me. They'll pop back up like 6 months later. So I save their numbers in my phone with who they are and that they did ghost. And then I always say something very nice to them when they come back at me. I'm like, no, we're not going down this road.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. And I'm going to not lie. I've ghosted before. I've only ghosted people that I've texted, not met in person, but still it's rude behavior and none of us should do it. I think it happens because our generation, especially because we are not used to talking on the phone as much anymore. Maybe our generation, like we're older, we are used to talking on the phone, but I think the younger ones definitely are not. And there's like this weird sense of they don't want to have confrontation. Or again, there's so many people that they're dating. They've got like 7 people on the bench and they're actively talking to all these people. They kind of are seeing who's going to give them whatever they want at that time. And then they'll come in and out of talking to you. My advice is if somebody ever ghosts you, do not see them again and do not give them the time of day. It's not worth it in the end because they're telling you that action means that you are not a priority and you're not important enough to say, hey, I don't think this is going to go anywhere. Or it's saying, hey, I'm dating somebody else and then I'm going to see if that works. And if it doesn't, I'll circle back to you and then I'll text you in like a month.
Yeah.
So to pick up the pieces on that, I mean, again, I think it's really that you cannot take it personally. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you and it has mostly everything to do with the human that is doing it. That's their behavior and you should not put someone else's bad behavior on yourself as something that you did.
Yeah, that's great. And
Does it mess you? Sorry.
no, I mean, what I wanted to say too before Auntie Como says that is, that's what we help too. Where if we find that it's maybe not a connection, instead of someone getting ghosted, because we can imagine how difficult and how hurtful that can be, we step in and we tell that person like, look, it didn't work, because I feel like that's just as important, of this whole process. And that alleviates the issue of having someone ghost someone else. And but I'm glad that you've been able to pick up the pieces. Sorry, Auntie Como, go ahead.
No. I mean, I was just asking, does that mess you up? I mean, personally, did it mess you up?
It did when I was younger. I think that the way I look at humans and relationships now, for me, the majority of people that you meet are not going to be a connection for you. Let's be frank. Or one person likes somebody more than the other. That happens. It's okay when that happens. You just have to know that if it's not that person, then that means that that's not the right person for you. There's a lot of people that can fit in the world for you. There's not one, there's a lot. So, I mean, you have to just,
Yep.
my advice is stay open.
Stephanie, I completely agree. I cannot thank you enough
Yeah.
for the information and sharing your stories with us today. We look forward to having you again on the show and talking about your podcast. In the meantime, we want everyone to go to premconnection.com, check out our YouTube, check out our Facebook, like and subscribe to our videos, check out our Instagram. Email us at twoauntiesdoubleadvice@gmail.com. We look forward to another exciting show next week. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and we'll see you again very soon.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.